Nope.
Welcome back to the 6th episode of Overruled. I'm your host, Trevor Bladdock, alongside co-host, Jaden Rayok.
What's up?
Today is Friday, March 22nd, 2019, and I'm sorry if we either have visual and it's not very good, or I don't even know. I honestly have no idea how this is going to turn out for the camera portion of this, but
Okay.
audio-wise, we should be good, so
Let's go audio.
we're going to try a new thing where we're going to play music right now and then play a different song when we overview the topics because Jaden was being annoying and I felt I didn't want to open the show with SpongeBob.
Dang.
I feel Guns N' Roses is the way to go.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a solid intro.
Oh,
I
yeah,
mean,
Paradise City is a classic.
Yeah, I could have picked something else other than SpongeBob. Come on.
I know you could have. SpongeBob is definitely...
We could have gone with Drake. We could have gone with like some other songs. So
What would
it's
you
all
have
good.
gone with if you did do SpongeBob?
I don't know. Honestly, probably maybe God's playing like that middle part. You know, I don't know.
Yeah.
I could probably think of something else, but not off the top of my head right now.
Well, so, like I brought up a little bit, that we're going to have some new music. This is requested by Jaden because today is his birthday.
Yeet.
So
I'm gonna
sorry.
clap for myself.
I apologize in advance for this. I promise I won't keep it on very long.
We got SpongeBob on, boys. Better than the Super Bowl halftime show.
But the topics we're going to talk about on today's shows, we're going to focus on the NCAA tournament that's going on right now, the second day of the round of 64. 16 games today, 32 teams. We'll touch on a little bit of hockey,
Jumped out of bed.
contract extensions in baseball. There's been a lot of those recently, including one who hasn't even stepped on a major league field yet. We'll all give a weather report, and
Woohoo.
if we
Can't
have
wait.
time, we'll touch on football as well. We also might have Dalton calling in. I told him he can call in whenever,
The Dalton Yoder.
so that kind of worries me because I have absolutely no idea when he's going to call in. So
And also for our video listeners, I have applesauce.
I don't even know why I try. So we are ready to go here. Jaden,
Okay,
are
cool.
you excited?
No. It's my birthday. I should be in bed still.
Jaden, I woke up earlier on my birthday than you had to for this.
But it's 10:30, Trevor. Like
I know.
I'm supposed to be in bed till 11, then I could go to school.
Well, you're doing just talking, so I think I don't have too much sympathy for you right here.
That's a bummer. Viewers at home, you need sympathy for me. It's my birthday. Just let me sleep.
Why
We
do
should
you-
have delayed this episode.
If we delayed it, I wouldn't be here. As soon as this
Not
is
a
over,
big
I'm
problem.
leaving.
Not a big problem. No.
As soon as we're done recording, I'm out of here.
Okay, that's cool.
So you have to close down the studio because I can't stay.
Okay, closed.
We have another 55 minutes or so, so please don't.
Don't turn off. I know I'm pretty bad.
So actually, that's a topic. Well, not a topic, but please don't be bad. There's only two of us. There's no one else to straighten you out besides me. We'll not have a conversation if you just, are you from last week?
Well, we could start about basketballs. No. College.
I was prepared. So yeah,
Wow.
we are going to talk about college basketball first. We'll talk about kind of who we think is going to do well. Just recap the first round. I mean, we could honestly spend the entire show talking about the first round, even tomorrow.
True.
Or yesterday, not
Yeah,
tomorrow.
no, yeah.
But
I know tomorrow.
yeah, there's a lot of fun stuff going on in the world of college basketball. Best time of the year if you're a basketball fan. Spring break for us here. Which times up perfectly with the first round.
Yup.
Just like it always does. It just got pushed back like we got pushed back. It's nice, isn't it?
I agree. It's kind of nice.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's what I would always love about high school when I had my phone. Because I would, in second period, I remember it was history. Caleb and I would break out our phones and watch that 10:15 tip because we were in that class until I think 10:55 or something like that. So we just break out our phones and start watching, and it didn't matter. It was like a 9-8, so it wasn't even a significant upset or anything, but it's just fun to watch.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that's kind of a common high school tradition. Like, you just kind of sit in your classes. It's one of the last days, before spring break. At least that's always how it worked out for us, and we'd watch college basketball.
Although I did that yesterday, too.
Well, but it was during class as well. So, yeah.
I did.
No, I was watching basketball during class, too.
I took notes while watching basketball. I was impressed. And I actually took good notes as well.
Wow. I'm impressed, Trevor. Good job. Everyone give him applause.
Yeah, good job for doing what you're supposed to. Actually, we have some live updates. Sleeper team Cincinnati at near the midway point of the first half up on Iowa 20-13. And then before tip, I think it's going to tip here in a few seconds. Oklahoma, Mississippi, that's a 9-8. So we have a 10-7 and a 9-8. Nothing too fun just yet.
Yeah,
could still be good games, but
come on. Yeah, I'm waiting for the good games, like UC Irvine to win.
Irvine.
Like, you know what? I'll say it how I want.
It doesn't make it right.
It doesn't make it wrong.
It does.
Not in my book.
Well, it's literally not right.
And I also expect Georgia State to beat Houston. Those are my two upsets today, so. Woohoo.
For the sake of my cousin, I mean, he only bet $20, but I really, really, really want Oregon to beat Wisconsin because he gets 100 if they win. Because I told him to bet 2 games, Murray State and Oregon.
Oregon's at 12.
Murray State won by 19 yesterday, so
yeah,
I got half of that done.
That was the upset that everyone was picking.
Well, 44% of people picked that, and that's what's hilarious to me. It's a 12-5. But I was watching the selection show, and as soon as it came up, it was I think I started laughing and said, yeah, that's an upset right there. Yeah. I made a mental note. I mean, I didn't need to, but yeah, that was going to be the upset. If there was going to be a single upset I had to tell you that was going to happen, it would be Murray State over Marquette. And I only had Murray making it to the round of 32. So I think they'll actually – Florida State's an interesting opponent because they struggled a lot versus Vermont yesterday.
Definitely.
However, they're still a 4 seed. They nearly beat Duke. They're a good team. That's what makes March Madness so interesting. You have the 12 seed who just beat the crap out of a 5, and they're playing a 4 seed. What's the difference between Marquette and Florida State? And that's what we're going to see tomorrow. The bottom line is if they can stop Ja Morant, it's over. If they can't, no matter who they're playing, Murray State's going to have a chance. And Morant had the first triple-double in a men's tournament, 6-7 years, something like that?
Yeah, since Draymond Green.
Draymond Green,
yeah.
That's right.
The
Michigan
living
State.
goat.
What about Plumlee?
There's too many goats, I'm sorry.
Michael Scott?
Rar.
Oh, yeah, I had to do
Yeah,
that.
there's too many goats, people. I'm sorry. No, but that was definitely, it's interesting. I think we definitely put too much in triple-double, but, it's one of those things, like, it helps reflect your value to an extent. I don't really agree, like, rebounds. Like, it kind of is like, as a guard that, 10 of those, it's like, that's not as valuable as assist points to a guard, but it definitely shows, how valuable he is to that team, so.
I think we're going to have Dalton call in just a little bit. Just wanted to get that out there so it's not a very awkward transition into getting him in.
Okay. That's fine. Yeah.
I didn't want, and here's Dalton. No, but.
Welcome.
Yeah. So I believe we're going to have Dalton in a few moments here. But
so then we'll talk Michigan yesterday.
We will talk Michigan, and they beat down Montana. I don't think they beat them down as much as I thought they would.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think they only won by like 20
19.
No, yeah. Okay.
The game that was surprising to me was Purdue Old Dominion. And here we go. Let's try this. Dalton, you here?
Wait. Oh, there he is.
Dalton, can you hear us?
I can hear you. What's up?
Hey, Dalton.
Hey, Dalton. Welcome to the show.
What's up, boys?
Nothing.
How y'all doing?
Pretty good. How about you?
I'm doing great. Just started football this week, so doing well.
That's good to hear. We just started talking about March Madness. So.
And I just said Michigan as soon as you called.
Yep.
Oh, I heard it. That's why I called.
You heard us on a non-live show.
Blue gonna win it all.
There you go.
They looked good against Montana.
Yeah, we just annihilated Montana last night.
Yep.
Yeah, it was a fun game to watch. think Jordan Poole and everybody on that Michigan team is really good, and I think Michigan can make a deep run. I think they can beat Gonzaga. I think their only real test on their side of the bracket is going to be Texas Tech.
Oh, I was just reminded by you saying Gonzaga. Blake told me to tell you that Gonzaga is better than Michigan.
I was texting him all morning. What conference does Gonzaga play in again?
Exactly. And that's my whole point. You saw it in New Mexico State with 30 wins out of the West Coast, and now you have a 30-win Gonzaga team out of the Western Athletic. And I'm not comparing the two. Gonzaga is definitely better than New Mexico State. And this ties into what we talked about last week. You just don't get high-level competition until the tournament in one of those conferences, which is why you saw a few years ago Gonzaga struggle so much against the 16 seed, and then they ended up losing in the next round.
Yeah, I mean, they get a little competition like in the, earlier part of the season, like the Maui Invitational or whatever it's called. I mean, but it's one of those things, I mean, that's early in the year. It's not really a statement, further down you need a little bit of competition. So I definitely, it's kind of an indictment on their, conference, because it's one of those things that's not as good. Bad words. So they don't have as good competition. So definitely hurts them in March Madness.
Isn't Gonzaga, do they play in the WAC, or what conference do they play in?
They play in the West Coast.
Yeah.
Oh, the West Coast Conference?
Yeah. Screw the WAC.
Who even is in there? Is it St. John's is in there?
No, St. Mary's.
St. Mary's. That's what I'm thinking of. St. Mary's.
Yeah.
I mean, but then when you look at who Michigan plays, Michigan's in the Big Ten. They're playing Michigan State, Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin. You have all these teams. Ohio State was really good this year. Purdue took a 3 seed. Michigan plays talent year round, and Michigan goes and has the ACC Big Ten little thing at the beginning of the year.
Mm-hmm.
They end up playing way more talent and getting ready for the tournament way before anybody else does.
Yeah, and I think it could go both ways with the mid-majors who don't play that tough of a conference schedule. When you get to the tournament in March, it could be you want to have a really good record, because if you play a bad team, you have that room for error, and then maybe you wake yourself up. But that's why Big Ten teams and stuff, unless they're just not a very good team, they don't have to be woken up. That's what playing in a big conference does, is you're already prepared for the tournament. So when you get in there, you don't have to feel yourself out per se. You can just kind of, what works, how to beat teams like what you're going to play, and you can just go right into it. And that's how you make a deep run in March.
You heard it here. So now, I guess the game that I watched yesterday that I was most surprised by was how I really thought Yale would win. I mean, they just couldn't buy a 3 there at the end. But, I mean, that was a fantastic game, came all the way down to the end. And I don't know. I don't really think I believe in the SEC teams as much. I really don't think they're going to make it to the Final Four, any of them, to be honest.
You said Sweet 16, didn't you, yesterday?
Yeah, but, we can upgrade it a little bit so it's not as crazy of a take. And I said Elite 8. I didn't say Sweet
Elite 8.
16.
I want to make it crazy, though. I want everyone to hear that you don't think a single SEC team, as of yesterday, you didn't think a single SEC team would make the Elite 8.
No, I
and
really
that includes
don't.
2-seed Kentucky.
Uh-huh.
No.
And that includes 2-seed Tennessee.
The SEC is trash at basketball.
Thank you.
Then why?
It's so overrated. It's one of those things. I said, I don't think they're making the Elite 8.
I agree with that. They're not making the Elite 8, but I also think the ACC is overrated for basketball too.
Nah.
Hot take from Dalton.
I mean, it's one of those things. I think their top, teams there. I mean, you got Virginia, Duke, and then North Carolina. I definitely think those teams are quality teams that have a fighting chance, to make, the Final Four or whatever,
Virginia?
even the championship. Virginia's shaky. Virginia scares me. Virginia, it's one of those things. I mean, the thing about Virginia is their offense is just so weird. I mean, they always set screens, and they're not really moving.
Well, yeah.
Well, they always set screens, but it's their 2 bigs, so they clog up the floor. It's it's one of those things, there's difference between, good screens and bad screens. There's screens that are just screens, that just clog up the floor, and there's screens to get you open. Virginia, it just seems like they have a problem with those screens that, get you open instead. It's one of the weirdest offenses there is. I hate watching it.
Speaking of weird offenses, Wisconsin.
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
Wisconsin's an interesting
white boys
team.
on the floor.
Wisconsin's an interesting team for me. I think they could make noise. I honestly have Oregon over Wisconsin, like I said earlier, but I don't know. Wisconsin has been so weird all year to me.
Yeah.
I would draw the cutoff if you made me draw a cutoff line in terms of contenders in the Big Ten. It'd be Michigan, Michigan State, Purdue, those teams right there. I'm probably missing one. Dalton will correct me if I'm wrong. But outside of that, I really don't see anyone that I feel 100% confident in making a run out of the Big Ten. And I know I just listed 3 teams, and that's a pretty decent amount. But Oregon, Wisconsin, 2:30. Actually, I'll be able to watch that game. I'm so happy. That's a game that I'm very interested in. Cincinnati up 10 on Iowa. Oklahoma already up 12 on Ole Miss.
Oof. SEC team
They played
there.
5 minutes, and it's 19-7 Oklahoma.
Yikes, SEC team really showing up there.
Well, this is a 9-8. I don't think I picked Ole Miss in any of my... Well, I think my mom did, but...
Yeah, I was going to say I didn't pick Ole Miss either.
Yeah,
I know.
They were...
Tonight's big game, though, at 7:57 or 8, whatever you want to say. ESPN says it's 7:57 is St. Louis versus Virginia Tech. St. Louis is winning that game.
It is 7:57. Why would they make that up?
But I don't know. To me, it's stupid. Why don't you just call it 8? Like, it's 3
Because
minutes
it's not
till.
8. It's 7:57.
Yeah, but it's kind of like the Nuggets games. It's like 10 minutes later till they actually tip. So it's like,
You round up.
yeah, come on.
Not in March Madness. Even, I think football is the only sport where in the playoffs they don't have weird numbers, because baseball does that too.
But literally the game before is 7:50 and then 7:40. Like, none of them are at 50 or like
There's
at
obviously
7.
a reason for it. I don't work at Turner. I can't tell you the reason for it, but
There's only 2 games that started as 7. Like, that's the weirdest number.
there's also a
Get-
5:27. Liberty,
yeah.
Mississippi State's
No, that's what I was
5:27.
saying. There's another one. There's only 2 today, but it seems
There's
weird.
a 12:45. 12:45 is a weird time.
It's still 5.
You mean 1 o'clock?
Thank you, Dalton.
4:50 is a weird time. 5:10. What's a
No,
5:10?
it's 4:50.
Wow, we've gone from talking about the quality of basketball to the quality of times. I like it.
Well, it wasn't a big deal until you just made it a big deal. No,
well, I
it's
don't know. I
just-
don't like the 7. It looks stupid.
You're making fun of time.
Bring it, time.
It's stupid. He has a point, Trevor. It's at 7 whatever. Like, if you play a
57,
game
yeah.
at 7:57 or 7:58, you're practically playing a game at 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
Like, but if you're playing a game at 4:50, you're playing a game at 4:50. Your tip is at 4:50. You don't round it up because it's a straight it's like straight up a number.
I didn't
It's
try to
not
make this a
random
big deal,
number.
I promise. I just looked at it and commented.
No, I know what you mean, Dalton, but why are we arguing over the times of basketball tips? This is weird. This is weird even for me.
Do you want to talk about the weather then, Trevor?
I mean, in
'Cause
general,
that gets weird for everybody.
actually, I am going to talk about it quickly. I mean, not
Ooh.
now, but at some point, because I want to practice before I go on air today and do it.
Congrats.
No, but
Trevor, you can be a whole news like a whole entire like Channel 7 by yourself.
that's
No.
right.
Let's transition to
Sports,
Trevor at the desk.
Yep.
Here's Trevor out in the field. Now back to Trevor at the desk.
Hi, this is Trevor. We're going to transition to Trevor at the weatherboard here.
Trevor?
Trevor. Yeah, Trevor with... Yeah, you got to change up your names a little
Trevor
bit.
weather.
Trevor Weather, and then there's Trevor Sports. Or Shorts? I don't know.
Shorts.
No, I said
That's an
Shorts.
article of clothing.
Yeah.
I think we should really try to get back to basketball here.
What? No way.
I can't believe you said Yale was going to beat LSU. No. No.
I have that.
I usually always pick Ivy League, but LSU is a good team. And I honestly think if they didn't get in trouble
Okay.
with the FBI, I would have had them in the Final Four. I'm either out in the round of 32 or the Sweet 16, just because they're going to be rattled from the FBI. But you said Yale couldn't buy a 3 at the end. The only reason it was a 5-point game is because they hit 3s at the end. What game were you watching?
What do you mean?
They went like 5 of 27 and hit like 3 consecutive 3s to bring it in
They
and cover
shot
the...
a lot worse than from 3. Literally before they made 4 in a row at the end. I'll even pull it up.
That's
I looked
my
it up.
point.
They made 4 at the end. Well, yeah, but they didn't have a chance at that point. They were already down by like 10.
You just said they hung in there for the
They
entire...
hung in there until they couldn't make 3-pointers.
They could never make
Literally
threes.
at that point, they were shooting 3 for 34 from 3. That
It was
killed them.
21-19, and that was the game. LSU put it away after that.
Yeah, but they couldn't make 3-pointers until as soon as you're like, oh, this game's over, and then they started shooting threes,
Literally
like just
what
randomly.
I just said.
Yeah,
I
and
said
it didn't
they couldn't
matter.
make... You're supporting my point, and you have no idea what you're talking about.
No, I said it was a close game if they would have made a couple of those threes. It was literally a 10-point game for most of the second half.
And it was a close game at the very end because they did make those threes at the end.
But it wasn't a game. Like, it was one of those things there at the end.
I was with Jaden on the pick. I actually had Yale upsetting LSU. I thought overall Yale was a better team.
The
Boom.
14?
What?
The 14?
Yeah, I
14
thought
seed,
that
yeah.
Yale was the better team overall.
I mean, obviously, if Yale had made their threes, that's. I hate that argument. If they had made their threes, they would have won. Well, yeah, if they had scored more points, of course they would have won.
Well, no, the reason I say more threes is up to that point they were shooting so bad. Like I said, in the last minute, sure, they made 4 in a row, but if you take the difference between the whole game, 3 for 37 or 3 for 33 is pretty trash.
They went 3 for 33.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
Yeah, and then, like I said, they made the last 4 in the last minute, and they bumped them up to
7 of 37.
yeah. Math with Trevor. But yeah, it was
Quick
one of those
math.
things. Yeah. I mean, it was one of those things it was just
19%.
Yeah, exactly. It was one of those things. It's just like, yikes. If they could have made, a couple more throughout the game, I think, it definitely, I don't know. I think Yale would have won. So there you go.
Yep.
There's my fire
If Yale had
take.
scored more, I do think they would have won.
God, how rude.
Trevor, that's how the game's played.
I know, that's my whole point. I hate the argument. If they had made more layups, or if they had made more free throws, if they had made
Every
more
team has it in their own
threes.
hands.
Of course, if they had made, of course, the losing team's going to say, well, if you go 5 of 15 from the free throw line and lose by 7, of course, if you had made all your free throws, you would have won. You would have outscored them. So of course you would have won.
Every team who loses needed a loss, though, to be honest. They need to reset for next year.
Yes, in the tournament, you need to reset.
I was just kidding.
Oh, boys, we'll get them next year.
Yeah, we'll get them next year. We needed this loss. Come back next year, boys.
These ain't the Brooklyn Dodgers. I
Duke
don't
needs a loss in order to reset and come back and win a national championship next year with, Zion and all the boys. They just need a quick reset.
Well, it's definitely going to be a quick reset, but I have a feeling Zion ain't going to be a part of it. Although he will be a part of it. He just won't be part of the
Or RJ
reset
Barrett.
team. Cam Reddish, RJ Barrett, they won't be there.
Yeah.
All right, here's my hot take about Duke, because you started talking about Zion. I don't think they're going to the championship game.
Me neither.
Yeah, I could
I
see
think
it.
they'll either lose in the Elite Eight or they'll lose in the Final Four.
Who do you got them losing to?
I have them right now. I have them losing to Michigan in the Final Four, but I can see them losing to Michigan State because both of those teams play defenses. Look at Duke's film when they go and they play teams who actually play good, solid defense. That was their one loss with Zion, was with a team who played defense.
Yeah, and I saw something on Twitter and said it's a team. I mean, I've saw 2 things, but Duke is going to run into a team of 5 seniors who have played together for all 4 years, and they know how to slow down the pace of the game and take control of it. And Duke isn't going to know how to react to that because they've been able to set the pace and just dominate everyone in ACC play except the teams that were able to defend. They play a team that can defend. They're one of the worst 3-point shooting teams in the country. So you defend the paint, let them shoot threes. If they beat you by the 3, fine. But if you can't let Zion go up and posterize you every 2 possessions or something like that, you just can't let that happen.
Yeah.
I actually have them losing to North Dakota State. Go Bison.
Okay.
I like it.
I've only missed
it's
3
actually
picks.
funny. It's funny, dude. Everybody up here is like, North Dakota State's going to beat Duke. Oh, my gosh. I'm just like, no, they're not. You guys need to just be quiet, please.
Actually, apparently I picked Duke in 2 of my brackets, which, I didn't think I did. I don't think Duke is going to make it to the championship, but apparently I picked them to.
Big yikes for your bracket.
Yeah. Oh, I picked Michigan State in one of them, so.
Wow.
Gross.
Who do I have Duke?
Izzo's a crook.
Yeah, well, I have Duke losing in the Elite Eight in that bracket to Michigan State. Duke-Michigan State, if we get that, that's the matchup I'm most excited for. I want to see that so bad. It's
Duke, Michigan State, Duke, Michigan, or Michigan, Michigan State again. Oh my gosh, that'd be good. I'd watch that.
What about Duke, North Carolina for a fourth time?
No.
No.
It would be a good game.
North
I'd hate it
Carolina
though.
I think North Carolina would run them out because they finally know how to play against Zion.
I don't know. Weird things happen in front of a 75,000 seat stadium.
Yeah. Gonzaga's going to make the championship. No. Shout out to Blake.
Yeah, I mean, I really don't think that Gonzaga is going to make the championship. It just goes back to they've been playing cupcakes all year, and I really do think the loss against St. Mary's helped them diagnose what they need to do to play in tight games. But heading into the tournament, again, you can't lose in the NCAA tournament and have that help you because you're done. That's why you'd rather, and I know this is going back to last week, and Jaden, for whatever reason, doesn't seem to no team is ever going to go undefeated. I mean, obviously it's possible, but the closest was Kentucky, and they didn't even make the championship game. 38-1.
But a loss never helps.
They lost
That's
to a
not
bunch
how
of
it
white
works.
boys from Wisconsin.
Go Wisconsin.
Oh, Wisconsin, giving all of us hope.
Yeah.
No, I mean, but a loss, like, you have to understand, a loss in the moment doesn't help. But when you look back at the tape of a loss, you can show what the other team was doing to exploit you. And it magnifies what you were doing wrong.
Yeah, but a loss never helps. Like, I don't know. It's one of those things, like, I know you're bound to lose, but if you also
Name a baseball team that's went undefeated. Name a basketball team. Name a football team.
Yeah, but like I said, it's one of those things, it doesn't
Miami
happen.
Dolphins.
Yep.
Miami Dolphins.
The only team ever.
Well, and it's one of those things, like I said, you're bound to lose in all sports. It's one of those things that happens, but you're not saying, oh, it sounds like such a... It sounds like as soon as you lose, it's like, oh, man, we needed that loss. It just sounds like a cop-out. It's one of those things, like, you should be going to win every game, but it's one of those things, if you lose, you don't need the loss. You should have won. Like, I don't get this idea of, oh, a loss helps reset you. It doesn't.
Of course it can help reset you. You just lost. You don't think you're not going to try to fix what made you lose? That's what the reset is. You watch what happened when you lose and you try to fix it. It's the dumbest crap ever that you're trying to say that a loss doesn't help. Not a loss doesn't help, but a loss can't help you figure out what you're doing wrong.
Well, if you're a good team, you should know where your weaknesses are before you lose.
Yes, but every team is going to lose because of their weaknesses.
Yeah. That happens, but it's not because of the loss that you know it. Coming into a game, oh, we're not, we won't get as many boards because we're not as strong, and that's why you try and address them in your pregame.
Then you go and practice and try to...
Yeah, but you should know that before you lose.
Yes, but you still lose.
But you address the problems during practice that you're not good at. It's one of those things that doesn't matter if you win or lose. You still try to address your weaknesses. It doesn't matter if you win or lose.
Yes, but don't you think a loss? No one says anything after a win, but after a loss, it's like, oh, this team isn't very good at shooting three, or this team isn't very good at rebounding.
Yeah, but that's just ESPN. It's one of those things you bet the coaches
everyone.
know. No, you bet the coaches know what's wrong with them. At least I would hope. A good coach knows if you're good or bad during wins. I mean, you have wins where you shouldn't have won. That doesn't mean that there wasn't any problems. It's one of those things, even in a win, you can find out what's wrong with you.
Well,
Trevor, to your point of name teams that went undefeated for football, Clemson this year went 15-0.
Not college, that's different.
Auburn, no, it's
How's
the
that
same
different?
thing because we're talking about college basketball.
Well, no,
Auburn,
the reason
Alabama,
it's different
Texas,
because
Ohio State.
Alabama against Auburn.
How?
Alabama against Auburn last year. They lost to Auburn, didn't have to play in the SEC championship, won the national title. The difference is in college football, only 4 teams have a shot to win the championship at the end of the year. So you have to win all your games. And in college football, it is possible to win out. You can lose at most 1 game, and you have to be a top conference team. You see UCF going undefeated, and they still can't make it in because they're not a good enough team.
So you're saying a loss would help them? No.
I specifically said college football doesn't help because you have to, if you're not a top-tier team, you need to be perfect.
Yeah, but what's...
Trevor, but it does. Because the thing is, in football in general, look, Michigan could go and lose 2 games. Let's say Michigan loses to Michigan State and Notre Dame. Michigan State middle of the year, Notre Dame in the front half of the year. But they go out and they beat an Ohio State team that's ranked number 3 in the country, and Michigan ends up being ranked, 8th. And then they go on to the Big Ten title game, and they win that. They can jump in and go play. You don't have to go undefeated in college football, but yes, you have to be playing in a Power 5 school. The thing I hate about UCF, and I heard this from Wyatt Ham all the time about it, how they should have been in the game. They don't play anybody.
Yeah,
they don't play anybody. It's the same thing with Clemson and in the ACC. In the ACC, their ACC championship game last year was the only championship game where both teams weren't ranked.
I think we can
they don't play anybody in the ACC.
They don't, but it still worked out pretty well for Clemson. I think we can all agree they were the best team in the country.
You put Clemson in the SEC. I still think Clemson does what it does because I think Clemson is the best team in the country. Mm-hmm. Because I think Dabo Swinney is Nick Saban's kryptonite.
For whatever reason, I would have to agree with that. He's 2-1 versus Saban. Actually, he's 2-2. They've played 4 straight years. And another thing is, everyone sees that Clemson-Alabama matchup. It's almost Manning versus Brady in college football. It's almost every single year that's what you're going to get. But everyone hates it. Like, I don't want to watch Clemson versus Alabama again. Why wouldn't you? It's the 2 best teams in the country. Isn't that the whole point of this?
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
I like watching those teams because they play football.
Yeah.
And they're very well coached on both sides of the ball.
And that's why you have other bowl games, too, to watch other teams. I mean, if you don't want to watch the 2 best teams, that's fine. You can watch some others, that aren't as good.
Go watch the Cheez-It Bowl.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, go watch another bowl game if you're not interested.
Yeah, I mean, in college football, it's so diluted because there's maybe 5, potentially 6 teams at most. I would say at most is fair because even sometimes of the 4 teams that make the playoff, they don't all have a chance.
True.
So you have 5, maybe 6 exactly. 5, maybe 6 teams on a really good year that have a chance to win the championship. And I think that's what happens in college football. Because in college basketball, you can still lose games and be one of the best teams in the country, but in college football, especially just in college in general, because there's such a talent disparity between an Alabama and a Vanderbilt, that's why losses aren't as excusable in college football. Because not only is the season shorter, the best teams don't lose, and that's been historically accurate.
Actually, Clemson was the first team since 2013 to go undefeated.
Yeah, 15-0. They're the first. I think first team ever 15-0, right?
Yes. They are the first team to ever go 15-0.
Yeah, but my point is, all those other teams were 1 loss. Like, they didn't go lose 2 games. 1 loss is the most you can do in college football because there's just too much of a talent disparity. If you're the best team in the country, if you simply you do not have a chance to win the championship if you're losing more than 1 game a year because you just can't.
You could if your other loss was against a ranked opponent.
Yeah.
Who ends up you lose by 3 or 7 or somewhere within there. When you lose by 1 score, you can still jump into that thing.
Yeah, and it hasn't happened yet, but you are right. It could happen.
It probably will. I probably will happen this upcoming year because the thing about the college football playoff is I think it's very political, and I think they just put teams in there to try and make money. I think that's why Notre Dame was in there. I don't think Notre Dame deserves it. Who do they play? What, do they have the 5-game set with ACC teams? They play the best of the ACC? No. Then they go in and they play Clemson, and Clemson just annihilates them.
Yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things, their goal, is to make money off of it. I mean, it's one of those things I think I think within reason they picked the team that will make them the most money. I don't really necessarily, and I think that was one of the reasons UCF got snubbed as well. And I understand they don't play anyone. You can make a lot of arguments for that too. But I mean, I think that definitely was one of the factors as well. It's like, they're a small market school and they won't make us as much money. And I think that's definitely something that runs in that system is, the top tier schools are always going to get favored over, someone who's up and coming that might deserve the nod instead.
Yeah, I would have to agree that they do put the teams that they feel are the best television in there. But for the most part, the teams that are the best television are also the best teams. Outside of Notre Dame, I think we can agree that Clemson, Alabama, and
Oklahoma.
That's right, Oklahoma. Oklahoma,
they were interesting.
They had Kyler Murray, who's sticking with football. That's a whole nother thing we can talk about. I don't think we will, but those are, I think, outside of Notre Dame, you could agree those were the three best teams. And the thing is Notre Dame was undefeated. So at that point, you had to basically decide Notre Dame or UCF. Or say screw both of them and put in another one-loss school that's better. I think Georgia should have been in over Notre Dame.
Yeah, I was going to say, I would have picked Georgia. I mean, as much as I, really appreciate what UCF did, it's one of those things like they didn't deserve to be in, as much as I would have loved to see them in.
And then they lost to the third strings on LSU.
Yeah, so I don't know.
Didn't Nick Saban, after the SEC championship game, didn't he say, I don't want to play that team that we just played again?
Probably.
He did. Yep. They both had a press conference right after, and they were on the stage together, and it's like, I don't want to play them again. They're the most dangerous team out there to us.
Exactly. And Georgia, when they went into that game against Texas this year, and ESPN is just blowing up because they're like, oh my God, Texas, because they gave them that stupid network and they love Texas football. But the thing is, Georgia didn't play because they weren't playing for anything. They didn't care. They're not playing for a national title. Why the heck are you caring what you do in this bowl game? It doesn't matter. You're not where you should be.
And that's what people refuse to accept. Like, Ben he's Texas, shocking. And that night, it was New Year's Day, and we were at a Nuggets game, so we couldn't watch the entire thing. But he was just going off in Snapchat about Texas is better than Georgia. They should have been in the playoff. Mark my words, Texas is better than all of these teams. They're going to be in the playoff next year. So you're trying to tell me that a team that felt they should have been, and I agree, they should have been in the playoff, and then they get put in the Sugar Bowl, is going to come out and say, yay, Sugar Bowl. This is where we want it to be. There's a pride thing to it as well as
they felt snubbed.
Well, they didn't feel snubbed.
They were
snubbed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it can go both ways. Like, you can go out and try to prove the committee you deserve to be in the playoff, but what good does that do? You win by 35. It doesn't change the fact you didn't make the playoff. They're not going to be like, oh, we're going to add a second championship game where you'll get a chance to play Alabama or Clemson, the winner of that game. That's not how that works. So I don't understand the whole point of... I mean, I love watching the bowl games, and I didn't watch as many this year. I watched the big ones when I could. Mm-hmm. But there's a difference. Like a UCF... The Fiesta Bowl, I hate saying this because they take it literally, it is their national championship. It's their chance to prove that they should have been in the playoff, and it doesn't mean anything to them, but it just goes on for pride for them. Like, you know what? We're one of the best teams in the country, and we're going to show it to you. Even if we're not going to get a chance at the championship, we're still going to go out and play like we should have been in the playoff. And then you have teams like Georgia, where... The Sugar Bowl isn't their national championship. They wanted to be playing in the actual national championship. So they go out there, struggle, or they didn't struggle. They just didn't want to play. I mean...
Yep.
I mean, it's one of those things, to be honest, like teams like UCF and stuff, I mean, they lost to LSU's third strings and everything, but I didn't feel like they didn't belong there. You know, it's one of those things I definitely feel like they should have been in a major bowl game. It's just, I don't know. I mean, it's just... They didn't win that game, but it's one of those things. I mean, I feel like in the SEC or something like that, I feel like they'd be about, middle of the pack, a respectable team, I don't think it's anything too crazy to see them there, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, UCF is so I would agree. I don't want to keep saying interesting. I agree with UCF.
Fantastic.
They should have been in a major bowl game.
Mm-hmm.
What I hate, and they were a fun, likable team in 2017, but then they went out and put 2018 national champions on the top of Spectrum Stadium, and it ruined it because it alienates an entire fan base. You went from lovable underdog to delusions, to a delusional team and fan base. You play Memphis twice a year that hasn't been good since Paxton Lynch. Tell me again how Paxton Lynch went. And I know they were very good with.
Well, there's a lot of system.
They were very good in the early to mid 2010s. Mm-hmm. They won a Fiesta Bowl versus Baylor.
Sure. Yeah.
And they were good then, but I didn't see them putting up BCS national champions on the roof of their stadium then, because it's stupid. Like, what's the point of advertising you won a championship that no one recognizes you won?
Although I gotta say, I mean, UCF is totally, like, all their sports are really good now. I mean, they definitely, I don't know, I never remember UCF even, being considered, 5-10 years ago, and all of a sudden now, they're in the NCAA tournament, they're really good at women's basketball, men's basketball, and then they're really good at football. And
yeah,
I'm
that
like,
powerhouse 9 seed, oh yeah.
Well, I mean, all things considered, though, I mean, all their sports are actually pretty good. So, I mean, I was kind of surprised by that. I mean, a lot of times when you have a football team that good, you don't make the tournament or anything. Like, it's a flip-flop. Usually you don't have two, fairly good teams on one campus. At least that's what I thought.
And Trevor, to your point of the national championship and, like, posting it everywhere, so it's like the same thing with CU. Should they put 1990 half national title holders, or what was that?
They shouldn't, because the Associated Press gave them the national championship.
Georgia Tech, huh? What?
Coaches poll by 1 point gave it to Georgia Tech, but the Associated Press gave it to Colorado.
Well, the AP is more important than the coaches.
Georgia Tech claims the 1990 championship, and that's the thing, is they both were awarded national championships by different polls. UCF wasn't awarded a championship at all, I don't believe, or at least I don't.
They awarded themselves one.
They awarded themselves a national, and that's the difference.
Just as much.
Is that if you look it up, the AP and the coaches voted for Colorado and then Georgia Tech respectively. Neither voted for UCF to be national champion in 2017, and that's the difference. Is because if the AP, I think they're now contractually obligated to vote along with the college football playoff, but if they had voted on their own and selected UCF as the 2017 national champion, then do it. I would think the AP is absolutely stupid for it, but then 100% claim that national championship. I hate the idea of claim national championships if you didn't actually play in the championship game, but you know what? If the AP voted you number one, then fine, claim it.
I know, it's one of those things.
And that's how.
I mean, I feel like they think it's rigged against them more or less, and I think that's why they claimed it. They felt like, oh, we could have won it if we were there. I mean, I don't think that's a fair argument per se, but it's one of those things. I mean, with 4 teams in there, they thought the 4 best teams. Well, UCF felt snubbed. They won their bowl game, and they're like, all right, we're champs then.
And also, who did they play? They played an Auburn team that just lost in the SEC championship game to Georgia.
Well, again, another,
They had just beaten Alabama. They were feeling good. They were going to make the playoff, and they laid an egg against Georgia. I think, 28-7, 28-14, something like that.
Yeah.
It was
another one of those situations, like we were talking about, where, they laid an egg because they, the committee didn't recognize them, as a playoff team, so they were just kind of, moping in there, and they lost, so more or less.
Yeah, it was I can't believe we lost to Georgia. We blew our chance at the championship.
And they were thinking about that instead of the game that they were supposed to play.
I don't know if they were thinking about that instead. They just didn't
have the same energy, more or less.
Yeah, they didn't have the energy. Like, there wasn't anything to play for besides pride. And obviously you want to play for your pride, but in college football, the goal is to win national championships as a program. You don't want to make Peach Bowls. You want to win national championships.
Then you also get players who, look at Michigan. Michigan lost a lot of their starters for the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl this year because they're like, well, we're not in the national title. We didn't go to the Big Ten title game, so I'm done. I'm headed to the NFL. See ya.
And that's another thing, is if you play in the college football playoff, players are going to stick around. They want to win that national championship for their school, but why would you risk yourself getting hurt and ruining your NFL draft potential in a game that's not for a championship? That's the thing. There's no outside. there's no logical explanation to. Football's a very violent game.
Yeah. I mean,
How many injuries would you say happen per game on average, Dalton?
You get about one or two. You don't get a lot of big injuries, but you get a lot of smaller injuries. You get a little nicks and stuff. I mean, me personally, I probably get 2 to 3 injuries that I can help for like through the week. But you get hit and you get banged up. By the end of the year, your body's just torn.
Yep.
So, I mean, I don't blame the kids for saying, hey, I'm going to the NFL. I'm going to ready myself for the combine and for my pro day. Because you're getting beat up. Football is so violent. Especially kids that play on the defensive side of the ball, they're delivering the hits. They're the ones that are going to be taking the impact.
Yeah, definitely. When I heard that story earlier in the year about Zion sitting out, I don't think basketball they should sit out because it's one of those things. To me, there's such a lower risk of an injury, in basketball, in my opinion. So it's one of those things. Like I saw that and I was like, he should play it out. But a football player, I'm definitely not against it, especially if he's not playing for a championship. If it's just a smaller bowl, or even if he gets injured earlier in the year and he just wants to protect his draft stock, I have nothing against that.
How is it different with basketball, though? Because Zion is slated to make millions upon millions as the number 1 overall pick. What if he gets hurt and slips? And I think he's so special, you still take him number 1, even if he does have a torn ACL or something. But with the case of Michael Porter Jr., he fell all the way back to the Nuggets at 13. And that's because of his injury.
I don't think he ever got that fully corrected, though, to be honest. I think he played a little bit too early, so...
Well, he tried, and then he re-aggravated it, then shut it down.
Well, yeah, and that was the thing. He came back a little bit earlier. But, with Zion's, he slipped, and he had a sprain or whatever, like a grade 1 or 2 sprain. To me, it's just, there's risks in doing anything, and I feel like basketball, it's very minimal. You'd be kind of like... I don't know. Especially with, a sprain. that happens from time to time. That doesn't, I understand like a major injury, like an ACL or something, then you shut it down. You can't play. But, it's one of those things like there's a risk in doing anything. So, basketball, for it being so minimal in playing, I think you should play through it. But in football, I don't know. I don't mind them sitting out because you could have that one serious injury when you play. It's a lot easier in football to get that career-ending, the season-ending injury.
Look at the Denver Broncos tight end Jake Butt. When he played in the Orange Bowl, he tore his ACL. If he wouldn't have played in that game, he would have been higher in the draft. We got him in the 5th round, and he was slated as a 2nd-round talent.
Mm-hmm.
And I also feel like, too, to an extent, college basketball is, that big, the tournament that's going on and everything. I feel like that has a lot of value on a player, compared to a bowl game in NCAA football. Like, it's one of those things like this tournament, a lot of players are making and breaking their careers as we speak, increasing their value, decreasing their value based on each game. So, I definitely feel like, that's an important thing to consider, too, if, a player were to sit out.
Well, yeah, because every single team has a chance at the national championship. All 68, I guess now. I don't even know what
formally,
it's at now.
32 plus.
No, it's 64 minus 16. So it's 48 teams right now. Although I am putting money on Oklahoma as they're up 21 with 3 minutes left in the first half. Cincinnati up 5 at the half on Iowa. But every team has a chance. And in college football, unless you're one of the 4 playoff teams, you don't have a chance. Like, you literally cannot win the championship unless, you're UCF. But why would you risk yourself playing in the Cheez-It Bowl to ruin your NFL career?
Love how you keep saying Cheez-Its.
Well, because it was an awful game. It was like 10-3 in overtime or something. It was awful.
I just love Cheez-Its. Let's go Cheez-It Bowl, if you're real.
Let's go Cheez-It.
Brought to you by Cheez-Its.
No, the Cheez-It Bowl actually is real. It was I think it was Cal versus... I don't even remember who Cal played.
Is it really?
Yeah, it was one of the worst games ever. It went to overtime.
Cheez-It Bowl.
No, what's the coolest bowl is that Bahama Bowl. Send the 2 teams down to the Bahamas for a week, play a bowl game. I'd play in that game just to go to the Bahamas.
The Cheez-It Bowl is a thing. What the heck?
I would go there. That would be a fun game. I love the Bahamas.
When you kept saying Cheez-It Bowl and I thought you were making fun of bowl
Cal
games.
TCU. Yeah, that's right. It was 7-7 entering overtime with how many... The first article, TCU versus Cal was one of the most beautifully hideous bowls ever. I don't even want to know how many. I remember there was just a ridiculous amount of turnovers. I don't remember how many. I think it was like 9 or something.
Mm-hmm. No, that game, yeah. As soon as I saw it, I was like, oh, yeah, I remember that. That was really bad.
Yeah, and you don't want to remember that game. I didn't watch it, luckily, because it's one of the things that if I had watched it, I would have been stuck. There's no way I could have turned it off after seeing 9 turnovers. Because it's still a close game. I'm like, I want to see how this ends. This is so terrible. Who's going to be less terrible at the end? And no one. It went to overtime. The 2018 Cheez-It Bowl, a real football game, ended because TCU scored twice, whereas Cal only scored once.
There you go.
I like it. The Vegas total for this thing was all of 38.5.
Wait, side point. They went to overtime and they only scored 3 times?
Yeah, there were 6 interceptions in the first half alone.
Oof. So you're telling me one team scored in overtime and then the other team couldn't as well on the 20? That's pretty bad. Or 25 or wherever they put the ball.
TCU's quarterback has now thrown interceptions after receiving a forward pass from another player and after crossing the line of scrimmage. He doesn't need your rules, just let him throw interceptions. My goodness. I do not remember how bad that game was.
He was recruited to the wrong team. He should have played for Cal. He could have found Cal wide receivers pretty easily.
Well, yeah, apparently. That is amazing. He threw 2 illegal interceptions. That is unbelievable.
In one game. That's historic.
That's funny. How the hell is he your starting quarterback?
Clearly they couldn't get anyone better.
And TCU was a decent team. They hung with Ohio State at the beginning of the year, and that was their peak. It was a very, wow. Did not end
They went down
very
quick
well.
to the Cheez-It Bowl.
Yeah. That is horrible.
There you go.
That's funny.
Your Cheez-It Bowl update with Jaden, Trevor, and Dalton.
Listen to this. A Cal quarterback change gave us this completely bizarre moment when the only 2 quarterbacks in the Power 5 who stayed with the same school through their senior years despite never starting were facing each other in the Cheez-It Bowl. That is unbelievable.
Wow.
That's funny. Okay, there's another thing. Do you think that college athletes should be, like, forced to stay with their schools and not do the whole graduate transfer thing?
Oh, my goodness, no.
It's practically like you're recruiting kids for literally 1 year who are practically NFL players at that point.
I hate the whole graduate transfer thing. I think if the kid isn't being given an opportunity to play, they should go wherever they feel is best for them. And that, in some situations, is mid-major. Sometimes it's another Power 5 school that gives them the opportunity. And I don't think there should be a rule making them sit out a year either. Just let them become eligible, especially the kids that just want to play football. Let them play football.
Well, yeah, you're recruited to play. You're not recruited to sit on the bench. I mean, if you can find an opportunity where you can grow and, become better, why not?
If I was recruited to play and I got stuck on the bench, of course I'd be mad. I'd want to leave. And it's not a Jalen Hurts thing where he has Tua Tagovailoa in front of him. Hurts is still going to go in the draft. He stuck around to help out Tagovailoa and help himself out because he knew there'd be blowouts. He'd be able to practice and hone his skills with some of the best coaches and facilities in all of football. But he transferred to Oklahoma, right? Because
sounds right.
He wants the opportunity to play, and he wants to show. He loves football. He also wants to get drafted. That's why he went to Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. Why would you sit on the bench?
See, and with like graduate transfers, I think if you're a starter and you're a graduate transfer, I think that's kind of like, unless you're going for a master's degree at a different university that's like closer to home or things like that, then go do that. But if you're just doing it to just kind of go there, take like one course just to play on that team, blah, 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 I think that's wrong. I think that instead of making graduate transfers, just be like, oh, you can only take like one credit. Like, I think they should be like, you're getting paid pretty much to take one credit instead of being paid to go get another degree to better your life after football, because football does not last forever. It will not ever last forever. And that's just my opinion on the matter. Is I think that you should be going for your Masters and bettering yourself and not just going to win a title, because football doesn't last forever.
Yeah. We're running a little bit low on time, so I think we should flip over to hockey. Just a quick flip on hockey here.
Sure.
The Avalanche are back in the playoffs.
Woohoo!
Win, damn it, win.
I love it. They won last night in Dallas 3-1. They won Tuesday night in St. Paul 2-1. I think literally every single result we wanted except the Red Wings winning happened. You had the Senators lose. You had the Kings win. You had the Coyotes, the team directly above you, lose. You obviously beat Dallas, who's in front of you. You won, obviously, as well. So now they're tied at 78 points with Arizona. It's amazing. They have the same amount of regulation overtime wins. So the tiebreakers go as games played. They've both played the same amount of games. And then it goes to regulation overtime wins. So not shootouts, games won in regulation or overtime. They're tied there. And then it goes to points accrued. So they've played 2 times so far. Each team has won once. So they each have 2 points.
Isn't that the first
So it's a tie
tiebreaker?
there.
No, really?
No.
I didn't know that. Oh, I thought
So
the
then they
head-to-head
go-
would be first tiebreaker.
Oh, I mean, I think row is the first tiebreaker.
Oh,
And then
okay,
it goes
sure.
down to goal differential,
Mm-hmm.
my favorite stat.
Woohoo!
And the Avs are +10 and the Coyotes are negative.
Yikes.
So the Avalanche are in the playoffs right now because of their goal differential. 8 games left for both them and the Coyotes. I only want to focus on the Avalanche just because the Lightning are just... if the Lightning go 6-0-1, I think they set the record for the most points ever. It's either 6-0-1 or 7-0-0. They could do one of those two, and they would set the record for being the best team in the regular season in NHL history. But the Avalanche, do you think they're going to make the playoffs?
Yes, they will. I think that they're finally starting to hit their hot streak. What were we talking about 2 weeks ago? You were saying, well, when are they going to hit it? When are they going to hit it? They're hitting it now.
Yep.
They're young, and now they're going to get hot. If they get even hotter, this is a team to look out for in the playoffs, and I think we can make a deep push. Very young. We have 2 good goaltenders that we can rotate, and I think our backup, I can't ever really pronounce his name. What's his name?
Varlamov?
Grubauer.
No, not Varley.
Philip Grubauer.
Yeah,
Sounds
him.
like Grubhub.
He's on fire.
Yeah, Gruby played last night. 44 saves.
Wasn't that? Yeah, still, he's so good. I've watched 6 of his games, I think, and he had shutouts in 3 of them, if I can remember correctly.
Yeah, it's funny. When he's on, he's on. When he's off, he's off. Which is why you get weird goal allowed averages and save percentages and stuff. Because he gets shelled when he's off, but he's unbeatable when he's on. And if he can keep playing like this, it's a situation where you can move on from Varlamov at the end of the year. And I know Varley wants to come back, but if he's going to be eating up too much money, there's no point in bringing him back. Because we got Grubauer to replace Varlamov. I'm not sold on if we're going to make the playoffs, because I do agree we're hitting our stride right now. But the issue is 5 of our next 8 games are at home, but we play Chicago twice, a very good team there. Then you play San Jose, you play Arizona, you play Winnipeg, you play St. Louis. There's a couple other games I'm forgetting, but the Avalanche, they play Vegas as well, so now I'm only missing 1 game. They need... And this goes into, if they're going to make the playoffs, they are going to be ready for the playoffs. They're playing a whole bunch of playoff teams to close out the season here. And the team that Chicago isn't in the playoffs, but they're still close enough right behind them. Well, not right behind them, 2 spots behind because of Minnesota, where it's going to be a battle royale to the finish between Arizona, Colorado, Minnesota, potentially even Chicago. If this series, it's a home and home on back-to-back days against Chicago, Saturday, Sunday. If the Avs sweep, I think they go to the playoffs. If the Blackhawks sweep, the Avs are out and the Blackhawks have a chance at the playoffs. If it's a draw, then I really don't know. It just kind of depends how the Coyotes and the Stars and the Wild play those 2 days to determine if the Avalanche still are in the driver's seat. But they need to take care of business at home. You need at least another 10 points. Get up to 88 and then get what you can out of the road games. You need to win. I love your motto. Just win everything you can. If you win out, you're in the playoffs.
I think you missed the
Win.
Warriors. That was the team you
Win,
missed.
damn it, win.
Yep, and they need to.
Let's get that hockey.
Instead of mission 16W, make it mission 24W, because they win 24 games, they're winning the Stanley Cup. Because 16 in the playoffs, win their final 8 right here, and then they're in.
I like it.
No, I think you focus every game one at a time, and then when you hit the playoffs, then you hit mission 16 dubs.
Yeah. It's also difficult because you're scoreboard watching. You have to scoreboard watch at the same time. And sometimes I love the idea of scoreboard watching, but sometimes it allows you to become too complacent. And that you don't want that. That's not good. But I don't know. It's just, I'm excited to see how the season ends, and I am fully prepared to be devastated. But this is a good young team, and I think they have what it takes to make the playoffs. We don't have too much time left, so do you want one quick final thing before we let Jaden sing us out here?
Sco Jimmy's.
Let's go, Jimmy's. I like it.
Jaden, take us away, please.
I will, with pride. You never said happy birthday, by the way. I'm going to cry.
Oh my god! Jaden, happy birthday! I totally forgot, dude. Dang it! It's Paige's birthday too, so I was focused on her birthday.
It's okay. I'm the less important of the two. I respect that.
Hey.
SEC
I love you, though.
teams really suck.
So for
college
Jaden Rioch and Dalton
basketball.
Yoder, I'm Trevor Blatnick saying so long from episode 6 of Overruled.
The song's just about over. My goodness. No, I'm just kidding. The mountains.
See y'all next week.
Country roads, the avalanche only have a coin flip chance. I don't know. Yale lost. They're stupid. I don't know.